It's been quite a while since my last confession, and today I have something interesting to talk to you about, the Aeroband guitar. They say guitar, there's no wood, no tuning pegs, the strings on the neck don't move, but I've been impressed and there's some interesting things to talk about with it, so let's dive in. Today I'm going to do some talking about the guitar. I will post some playing videos later, but if there's any questions you have after this video or things you want me to try with it, post in the comments and I'll make a version 2 of this video. So a couple of months back, I got a message from my father-in-law with the Aeroband guitar reel on Facebook, and he said to me, "What's your opinion on that two-piece guitar?" And I said, "It's hard to know. Be interesting to play one. Could be fun. Could be garbage." I'm a singer-songwriter guitarist. I have a MIDI controller keyboard. I can't really play keys besides, block chords. So I was really excited to try this out because, if I can get the sounds out of my head on a guitar or guitar-like device into the DAW and MIDI, that's exactly what I want. So, I reached out to them. They said they'd send me one to try, and I was pleasantly surprised when this guy turned up. It's a bit heavier than you would think, and a few mates that I showed this to said the same thing. But yeah, let's open it up and check it out. This isn't the first open. I'm not going to pretend like, I've opened it before, so let's be real. All right, so it comes in the box like this. Didn't want to be one of those YouTube cake videos, where they're like looking at all sides off the pan. But it comes in 2 parts, obviously. So, not many guitars come in 2 parts. We have the neck, the body. You'll notice that the strings aren't attached. These little guys come off and click back on. And we have a little goodie box. In here, there's a whole heap of different things. Obviously got the user manual. There's some stickers with some chord charts and whatnot on them. USB-C cable, very important to get it connected to the computer. This guy, which is like an Allen key kind of screwdriver for changing the strings. And some trusty picks. They don't actually have Aeroband on them, so I thought they might have. But anyways, that's what's in the box. Let's put it together. And it's together. So, it feels kind of about the size of a normal Strat. The neck, it feels similar to a La Cabronita neck that I've got up there. I'd say it's kind of, skinny. It's not on the chunkier side. So the first thing you'll notice, there's no strings on the fretboard. Now, Aeroband call these a silicon fretboard. So they do market it in some ways as, soft and easy to learn guitar on. We'll get to talking about that later, but it doesn't feel unnatural to play as a guitarist. But obviously there's no kind of resistance there that you get from a normal string. Down this end of the body, however, though, feels a little bit more like home. So these are guitar strings down here, or, a little bit of a guitar string, probably, 1/6 of a guitar string. They look all normal. I haven't had to change the strings on this yet, but it looks relatively easy enough. On the body, we have these 2 main buttons here. So this one turns it on, and it's the volume of the guitar. There's a little speaker in the body of the guitar here. The next one is the drum machine and volume of the drums. Next to that is a microphone input. Just me personally, you might use a microphone. There's some pictures on the Aeroband site of someone using the microphone. It's not for me. Might be for you, not for me. And a headphone jack there as well. So outputs wise, you have a USB-C to go into the computer for MIDI, and there's also a 1/4 inch normal guitar cable there. Up on the headstock, you have these 3 buttons here. One changes the tones of the guitar, and the other one's like a digital capo. So you press, you know, down, up, and it changes the tuning, which is really cool. I've got to admit, when I first pulled it out, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm a child of like the late 80s, mid 80s. And yeah, I must admit, the first time I saw it, I was like, that looks like a keytar, which I always thought was kind of really cool. I blame John Farnham Playing to Win. And yeah, it also kind of feels a bit like a stormtrooper if you're, you know, that way inclined from Star Wars. But it's weightier than you'd think, but it's a solid feeling plastic. You know, there's no kind of give between the body and the neck when you click it in. It's there, feels sturdy. Not really sure what else to tell you. Let's turn it on. So you press this button here and hold it to turn it on. You get these cool lights. And when you turn it off, you get the reverse. Now that's fired up. I should mention there is an app that goes with the guitar. It connected first go, no issues with that, which is great. Also, when I plugged it into my DAW, I'm running Logic, connected straight away, no issues, which is great. And you know, there was minimal latency and response and stuff. It was all great. I'll quickly run you through the sounds that are in the guitar itself, because it does have inbuilt sounds. This isn't really the use case that I got the guitar for. Well, I have been having fun playing the piano on the guitar, or sorry, playing a guitar that sounds like a piano, playing this instrument that let me play a piano. Yeah, this isn't the use case. You know, I probably wouldn't take this to a gig at the current time, but at home, songwriting, production, absolutely would use it. So, but let me go through the sounds. So, acoustic pick, hit the tone button here. This moves to electric country. Next we have electric pop. This one's classical guitar. Piano, probably my favorite. Bass. Banjo. Clavinet. Acoustic fingerstyle. Acoustic pick. So that's the sounds in the guitar as they are. Look, there's heaps of videos on YouTube of people playing through the sounds and whatnot, and you know, their experience with the guitar. So I'm not going to go through it in that light, because I don't think there's anything I've got to say to that hasn't been said. The sounds are there. You know, they sound cool. Is, you know, this going to stand up next to a, you know, pre-war Martin D18? No, it's probably not. But I think you've got to compare it to what you're comparing it to. You know, it's I feel kind of like it's a bit like when someone has, you know, a gluten-free, sugar-free, all-natural, no-bake, you know, Mars bar, and then they compare it to like a Mars bar. People around the world, you know, insert your candy or chocolate bar or cake of choice. You know, it's not, while it's called an Aeroband guitar, I think it's kind of unfair to compare it to a guitar, because it's not. You know, it does have some strings, uses the same shapes, and, you know, on the fretboard, but I think ultimately for me it's really just a MIDI controller. So hook it up to the DAW, you know, be able to put, you know, I've struggled to play Junos or, you know, insert VST instrument here in the past. So it's really nice to be able to hook it up and say, okay, I want to play this and get it to come out on the Aeroband guitar. So that's been really cool and inspiring for me. Is it the right instrument for you? I don't know. That's up to you. But if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below. When playing the guitar, every now and then it will, you know, it's not going to do it now, but it will do some random notes every now and then. In saying that, is it a big deal? Not really, because the way I plan to use it will be in a DAW. I can just go through and delete those MIDI notes, you know, adjust it that way. it's not a big deal for me. If you do press the strings in certain ways, it will react different to a guitar. I'm quite a percussive player when I play guitar, and you do have to adjust your playing style for this instrument, as you would, like a Les Paul compared to a Telly, or, a classical or a gypsy jazz guitar compared to, a beautiful mini Maton like the one behind me. Maton, call me. You've got to play it differently. And, even if you're running it through a orchestra, you can't play an orchestra like you would play a guitar. It's not going to sound right. So you need to adjust your playing for the instrument, which I don't think, I've watched a lot of videos on this to kind of see what other things that people were saying, and a lot of them didn't resonate with me because it just wasn't an issue for me. But ultimately, if different things are an issue for you, that's what you've got to decide. So just giving you my thoughts on the Aeroband guitar. Pricing wise, this will set you back $439 USD. If you want a case, it will set you back $489 USD. So in Australia, where I am at the moment, that's 670 Australian dollars, roughly, and 750 Australian dollars. Strings wise, $13 for a set of strings from Aeroband. They are proprietary, so you can't put a set of Diodarios on there, for instance. I'm not sure if local music shops sell them. I doubt they would, but you can buy them direct from the website. I don't have a spare set, so I'm not going to be changing them anytime soon, but I just don't think you'd need to change them as frequently as you would, say, a guitar that you play at a gig. I used to like changing my strings every gig or every second gig, just because I'm a sweater and whatnot. But yeah, I just don't think you need to do that as frequently with this fella. It is marketed in some forms of Aeroband's marketing as a beginner, learner guitar. Obviously the fretboard is very comfortable to play, like the silicon strings. Imagine like to feel it's just like a kind of a nylon string. The high string's on a nylon string, but sunken into the fretboard a little bit. It's quite it doesn't hurt your hands. But I think if you're learning on this and then you move to a traditional guitar, especially most people's first learner acoustic guitars, which often have old strings with a high action, you're going to have a bad time. So I think probably for that purpose, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend it for someone in my case that has played guitar for years, wants to be able to do some stuff in their DAW, but doesn't want to dedicate the time to learning piano. And yeah, I think that's what I would recommend. For beginners, there is Aeroband has mentioned that that it can be good for beginners. It really depends. I think if you learn and spent time practicing on this, while you get the shapes, the chord shapes, the basic sounds, because you do have to play the instrument differently to a guitar, I wouldn't recommend it personally. Most people learn on an old acoustic or electric with terrible action, old strings, etc., etc. And if you went from this to that, you're going to have a bad time. I think probably for a beginner, it's better to buy a cheap electric or acoustic and learn on that, and then you could move to something like this if you wanted. There is an auto chord feature in the guitar. I haven't even looked into that. I've accidentally got into that mode once or twice, but it's just not something I'm interested in because I can play guitar. If it was on a keyboard, that would be my jam for sure. But I think there is definitely some use cases for people that have disabilities, maybe in their hands or arthritis, or a lot of different things there that would give people that outlet to be able to play the guitar. So that's a cool option. How does it compare to the Jamstik? From my experience, this has been way more responsive. There's been kind of you know, intuitive. It just works straight out of the box. Obviously, the Jamstik, you know, is a guitar with that MIDI functionality built in. So it's not apples to apples. And with a lot of things and comparisons online, it's never apples to apples. So it's, you know, it really depends what your use case is, how much money you want to spend, and what you want to do with it. So this is just my experience, and hopefully it'll be helpful, and I can you know, answer some questions in a follow-up video. But I will put some sound examples up in another video, just because I know, yeah, some people like the talking videos, some people like the playing videos. This little bit of metal up here on the end of the bridge, that's used as like a mute bar. So when you rest your hand on that, it deadens the strings like you would when you mute with your hand on the guitar. Another cool thing with the guitar, so this is in standard tuning here. You can change the tunings. I struggle enough with standard tuning, so I haven't messed around too much with it. But it does have, you know, a whole heaps of options in there where you can do DAG and, you know, open whatever that you want, which is cool. I think the way I would use the tuning function would be kind of with the digital capo. So here we're just in standard. But what you can do is hit down, and these lights as you hit down are going down. So you can go all the way to an octave down. Which is pretty cool. That's pretty cool, I think. You know, for a fake baritone sound. And in that way as well, you can go all the way up. Easy to do in the DAW, but fun to play around with here for, you know, thinking of like baritone ideas. I don't have a baritone at the moment, but, you know, you could get those ideas out of there. You can do the same thing with banjo, you know, maybe with some doubling and some really high capo setting. You can get like into the mandolin territory, but as I've been using this, you know, USB into the computer, you can have any sound you want. I really like the possibilities with the Aeroband guitar, especially plugged into my computer. Let me hook this up. There we go. That's how quickly it hooks up. I should also mention that this does come with an app, which is free, and I'll put some pictures up on the screen now of the app as I'm talking about them for you. So this is the main view. Just took a screenshot well, that I'm seeing here. So you've got obviously the guitar tone, which changes as you press this button here. So that's moved to electric now. Screenshot. The easy chord, that's the auto chords that I mentioned before. Not my cup of tea. I haven't really used it because I can play chords on guitar. Most chords, some chords, the main cowboy chords. Obviously you've got the loop in there for the drum machine, BPM for the drum machine. If I fret this A chord here, you see it shows up in the app, which is cool. I'm not strumming the strings, so that's why there's no sound. We also have over here the settings menu, which shows you a lot of different there's a lot of different options in there. String sensitivity, you know, you can turn the mute bar on and off, make it kind of sound like a, you know, John Mayer tap on the strings. Technique wise, you can turn the hammer on, like hammer on or hammer on or off. And you can also turn open string hammer on and off. I found different levels of success with this, but it's good to have the option there for those different things. You know, you can turn fret noise on and off, and there's also a firmware version here. In the time I've had the Aeroband guitar, which has only been a few weeks, there has been a firmware update which showed, you know, some improved playability and response, which is great. So it's good to know that they're keeping those updates coming and wanting to improve the guitar's response. The other parts of the app I haven't really delved into, to be honest. I've just been too busy playing this and my own music, but there is a song section here, so you can go through and kind of strum along to the songs. There's a tutorial section here with, you know, a beginner course in there, and there's also a profile section in there. Also on this screen is a Bluetooth connection, and it shows you the battery amount for the guitar in the app as well, which is cool. So you don't, run out. One other thing I should mention, this is obviously battery powered as well. When you press the power button once, these little green lights pop up, and that tells you how much battery I've got left. So as per the app, this is 78%, in case you're wondering. I'm not sure if green turns to red as you get down here, just because it hasn't ran out of battery since I've had it. I've been playing it. I've been playing it plugged in via USB-C, so it's been charging. But yeah, there's lots of cool little functions in there. Variety is the spice of life. Oh, that is one thing that I will say. Yeah, accidentally, just like kind of hunching over a little bit. I have pressed the buttons more than I would have thought, but would they? They've got obviously got the speaker down here, so you probably can't put the buttons there. Maybe here, I don't know. That just has been something that's happened a few times. And I'm like, oh, but maybe I just need to have better posture. I don't know. What I was saying though is that variety is the spice of life. So what are the alternatives to this? There are a few. Obviously, I've tried the Jamstik Studio, and that you're looking at $829 US Central Australia, which is kind of $1,200. The Fishman triple play, it's around 800 Australian dollars. So this is still the cheaper option compared to those two. I know there are other alternatives, but they're just kind of the three that stood out to me. Obviously, as well with the Fishman, you still need to have a guitar to attach that to as well. So I haven't tried the Fishman. I'd love to one day, but compared to the Jamstik that I tried a few years back, this would be my choice, absolutely, just because it worked out of the box. It also doesn't feel like an extra guitar. It kind of feels like a different instrument, if I'm honest. And I'm not saying that because Aeroband sent me one for free to check out. It's just the truth. The Jamstik felt like another guitar, but it wasn't a guitar that I loved. That didn't have a headstock. It was weird to tune. The finish and the bridge, and it didn't work out of the box for me either. I know other people have had success with it, but that was my experience. So I'd absolutely choose this. It feels like another instrument. Doesn't feel like a guitar. So that is me waffling on about the Aeroband guitar. I should also say thank you to Lola from Aeroband for sending me this to check out. It's been inspiring and fun, and it does exactly what I was hoping it would do, which works for me. I would be saying the same thing if I didn't get this for free, and I purchased it and you're asking me my DMs. It works for what I want it to be able to do. Will it work for everyone? Probably not. Will it work for some people? Yeah, I think it will, but it's ultimately up to you. So if you've got any more questions, put them in the comments. Hit subscribe so you don't miss part 2 of this video. And let me know, are you looking at getting an Aeroband guitar? Do you have one? What did you like about it? What don't you like about it? What's your favorite sounds in the guitar or functionality? And what have you been, connecting it to in your DAW to play along to? Sorry it's been so long between videos, but hopefully not too long between the next one. So hope you're all well, taking care of yourself and having fun. Actually, I probably should have ended like this. So, here's a Waffle-Free Takeaway on screen. What's in the box? 2-piece guitar, USB-C cable, Allen key screwdriver, and some picks. The build and the feel, soft silicone strings. I'm using air quotes even though you can't see me. They're finger friendly. The guitar feels good, the build quality, and it's got a guitar style / Stormtrooper vibe to it. Playability. There's no latency. You will have to play with different technique because it's not a guitar. And if you kind of play like you would guitar, or for me anyways, percussively, you will get unwanted notes. MIDI performance, it worked. The Jamstik didn't for me, and obviously you have to adjust your technique and playing style depending on what you're plugging into MIDI-wise, but I think that's probably true of anything. App features, connects easily, does what you want it to do, and has a lot of beginner-friendly features. What ports does it have? Has a USB-C, I guess in and out, a 1/4 inch out, headphone out, and a mic in. Sorry, Aeroband, that's not for me. The price, you're looking at like $430 to $470 USD and $13 USD for some strings. Alternatives, there's the Fishman Triple Play, there's a Boss unit, and there's also the Jamstik Studio. But once again, these aren't apples to apples. They're not the same. My verdict, it's not a traditional guitar, but it did exactly what I wanted it to do. It was inspiring, and I think it's versatile for creators who are guitar-based.